Man, of course, the podcast brought to you by orgaretcha.com. 20% off for the rest of January, only a few days left. So get your hand on the gear. It's top class gear, so get your hands on it, guys. And today I'm joined by Gaelic Life journalist Michael McMullen and GA Fan TV hosting creator Aaron Prendergast to talk about last weekend's Allianz Football League action and, of course, this weekend's action. So really looking forward to chatting to the lads tonight. It's back at earnest. So much to talk through for the next while. I will start off with yourself, Mal. How are you keeping?
Very good. A very busy weekend, and I would have to say, brilliant coverage by the TV guys. You know, BBC, iPlayer, TG Cahar, RTE, excellent. Yeah. I finished watching League Sunday last night, and the first thing I did was I went and checked the last day's fixtures.
Yes.
And alarmingly, all the games are on the same day again. I think one division starts at 1:45, another at 1 o'clock, and the other two divisions are 2 o'clock. So they haven't learned their lesson, because what was a very good opening weekend, lads, with games on Saturday, games on Sunday, and if you went to a game yourself, you were able to catch up. Whereas, as I call it, Calculator Sunday is going to be just the same as it was last year. And while it's very exciting, I just think it's so much potential for a 3 o'clock, 5 o'clock Saturday, 2 o'clock, 4 o'clock Sunday, whatever the magic numbers are, because each division will have its own story. And if you use Division 1 from last year, lads, it was amazing. The Jack McCarran, Kerry Tyrone staying up. So I was concerned about that, but last weekend was brilliant and full credit. I just wish we would be able to do something on the final Sunday.
Split screens or split TVs and really push the GA on as much as possible, Mal. But we have seen with the GA in the last week, it's been quite unsavoury. But that's maybe for another day's conversation. Mr. Prendergast, how are you?
Yeah, doing good, John. Doing good. Good to be on. Discuss the weekend's action. I'd agree with Michael there as well. I think it was great to see so many games on TV. I think that was one thing that the GA got a lot of criticism for last year, was the fact that I think they were just showing Division 1 games last year. I think I watched 5 games in total, and you nearly have too much GA to watch. You nearly need a break after watching it all. But I think it's great though, to be able to see the games, and obviously a bit of a new format on the League Sunday as well, with new presenters and everything else. But in terms of the games itself, I was looking through the results, and only 3 or 4 games finished with a margin bigger than 4 or 5 points. And I think that's why everyone loves the league, because it's so competitive. You've so many draws, so many late action, late talking points, and you could be here for hours discussing it all, because there really is so much to go into. And I think that's what makes the league, in my opinion, the best competition that we have in the GA at the minute.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so many games, so many talking points, and lots of action to go through, lads. So I suppose before we obviously crack into the action, I'll just do a bit of housekeeping before we start. Obviously, the GA.ie Football Team of the Week was announced today, and in between the sticks, you had David Sexton, the full back line of, David Sexton, obviously a good Clare man. The full back line was Shea Cullen of Fermanagh, Sean Kelly, Galway, Peter Cunningham, Offaly. Half back line from Carlow, Jordan Marcy, number 5, number 6, Niall Daly, and number 7, Caolan McColgan. Caolan McColgan from obviously Donegal, and then in midfield for Armagh we have Stephen Campbell and Brian Fenton of Dublin, and then the half forward line was Derry's Shane McGuigan, Leitrim's Keith Byrne, and Roscommon native Ben O'Carroll. Full forward line of Cork, Stephen Sherlock, Meath, Shane Walsh, and Mayo's Ryan O'Donoghue completing this week's Team of the Week. And then the Footballer of the Week nominees are Roscommon's Niall Daly, Donegal's Caolan McColgan, and Meath's Shane Walsh. Mr. McMullen, what do you make of all that?
Good side. One name I don't see in there, which is somebody I only saw playing really at the weekend for the first, was Jack Robinson from Kildare. I thought he was excellent. I heard his name. I'm aware that he played Kildare Minors, but it was the first time I saw him and he was brilliant. Absolutely excellent, but a good Team of the Week. Shane McGuigan was excellent for Derry. I was at that game, and Owen McAvoy very good at full back for Derry. That's the second week in a row I think I've mentioned him on here. So hopefully that gives Derry a wee bit more variation in the way they can use Brendan Rodgers. But No, team of the week always generates a bit of debate, and I only saw the highlights of Donegal and Kerry, but like Cahir O'Kane was at the game. Paddy Carr mentioned it in an interview. Paddy McGill mentioned on his podcast. Keelan McColgan, brilliant goal, 3 points from. And when you talk about, transition, a word that's used probably too loosely and too, very, it's loose, but for somebody who's maybe going to look for a championship spot, he's done himself no harm there. And I suppose then, Johnny McGrady did well for Donegal, but I think that was probably the result of the day, was up there, the Donegal getting that result. Especially a couple of weeks ago, we were chatting about, relegation battles and things like that, and it just proves that you don't really know an awful lot about the league until you see a bit of the action. And that was a massive result for Donegal.
Yeah, it really, really was. And of course, we all have seen Paddy McBurdy's unbelievable score to win at the end, and obviously Paddy Carr's interview after the game as well. So brilliant stuff from the Donegal men. And yeah, that's the team of the week, and obviously the nominees for football of the week as well, lads. I suppose we can touch on to the action, and I'll just read through the just to start off the Division 4 and Division 3 results. So on Saturday in Allianz Football League Division 4 Round 1 in Network Cullen Park, it was Carlow 2-10, Wicklow 2-10. So obviously a draw for Oisin McConville's first National League game with the men from Wicklow. So obviously McConville will be quite pleased with that. I suppose not a bad start. And then on Sunday in Markevitz Park, you had Laois 2-11, Sligo 11 points. And then in Avant Money Park, Sean McDermott, you Leitrim 3-18, Waterford 11 points. So obviously that's Division 4 results there. And then moving on to Division 3 in the FBD Semple Stadium, it was down 2-11, Tipperary 1-11. Obviously a great win for Conor Lafferty. Away in Tipperary, not an easy place to go to, so Conor Lafferty will be absolutely delighted with that. And then in Derry, you had Fermanagh 15 points, Longford 9 points on Saturday in Division 3. And then the other results in Division 3 from Sunday in TAG Cusack Park, it was Cavan 12 points, Westmeath 1-6. Obviously Mickey Graham would be absolutely delighted with that result. Very, very tricky place to start and go to. And then in the last game of Division 3 in Carrigan Park, it was Offaly 2-12, Antrim 12 points. So that is Division 3 and Division 4 results wrapped up. And I suppose we can crack on to Saturday's action in Division 2. It was Croke Park. It was Dublin 1-11, Kildare 13 points. I suppose, Mr. Prendergast, obviously you're a big Dublin fan. Were you impressed with what you seen on Saturday?
Not really, John, to be honest, not really. It wasn't really a great performance from a Dublin perspective. I mean, it was it was a strange performance, really. Like I remember watching it in the first half, and we had every man inside around half in the first half at one stage, inside around 45. Like, we were very, very defensive, considering playing Kildare, who, we usually beat quite comprehensively in the championship. I know they beat us in the league last year, but Kildare haven't beaten Dublin in Croke Park since 2000. The last time they beat Dublin in the Leinster Championship. So yeah, like it was just it was an odd performance. Like, we started quite well. Obviously, Brian Fenton gets the goal. Great to see Owen Merchant back in the side. He plays the pass into Sean McMahon, who then lays it on into Brian Fenton, who puts it into the back of the net. And it was like we were always in control. We never really looked like losing the game as such. But it's just a lot of rustiness. Like Conor O'Callaghan, I think he scored 2 points, but didn't really get going until the second half. And you could see a lot of rustiness in the Dublin side. Like, I suppose the difference really with Dublin maybe, and like even Derry, for example, in Division 2 was, Dublin were playing a development squad in the O'Byrne Cup, really. Like, so, like I seen James O'Donoghue was tweeting saying, the Dublin lads are only taking the balls out of the bag, training. And it's actually probably very true. Like, I'd say a lot of those lads probably only got back to training in the last week or two. Because it just was very rusty. Like Costello as well, a little bit rusty. Few of the new lads in there, like, probably didn't impress too much. But look, the main thing in the end is the result. And, Dublin did hang on to get the victory in the end. But, like, Dublin will have a long, long way to go if they're going to be winning any All-Irelands or competing for any All-Irelands, because I think from a Kildare perspective, there was a massive opportunity blown there, because it was a huge chance to get a win. And, if you beat Dublin in Croke Park, you go out next week and get another victory, then all of a sudden, especially with how strong Derry have started, Dublin could have been out. Dublin could have been maybe struggling to get out of Division 2. So, big result in the end. I'm sure the performances will get better, but in terms of Saturday, it wasn't too good. But at the same time, there's still a long way to go yet. So no panic buttons being pressed or anything like that.
Yeah, definitely early days yet for everything, I suppose, Aaron. But I suppose kind of touching on the Dublin performance, obviously, we did see a very good start from Dublin. Obviously, Brian Fenton getting a very good goal, and then you're kind of thinking, right, if the floodgates going open, and then to their credit, Kildare defended really stoutly, attacked very well. So Kildare, it's fairness, kept tabs up with Dublin for large parts of the game. Maybe Kildare could have snaked it at the end, and maybe same old Kildare, maybe not finishing games off, but I suppose maybe from the Dublin end of things, Conor Callan maybe didn't have his best days out. Maybe Brian Fenton, maybe a few underperformances. There is, of course, loads of times to improve. I know Derry will give them a good rattle for it, but I think coming away, the Dublin fans, maybe media, supporters, everyone won't be overly pleased, Aaron.
Yeah, there was definitely a lot of frustration, speaking to Dublin fans after the game and later that night and everything else. And there definitely was a good bit of frustration, all right, with the performance. I think if Dublin had been trailing maybe by 3 or 4 points, pulled it back and won the game, there would have been a lot more optimism. But Dublin were in cruise control, 4 or 5 points up for large parts of that game, and then it was really in the final 15-20 minutes that Kildare slowly got back into the game. But even at that, Kildare missed a good few chances as well. They were dropping chances short, and they were being turned over quite a lot. And you just got that sense that if Kildare, had been a little bit better than what they were on the day, they could have came away with the result. So, yeah, there was some frustration, but at the same time, there is a lot of acknowledgement that, obviously there's no Mannion, no McCaffrey, no James McCarthy. You've got Con, who's playing his first game of football since the Dublin Club Championship with Coola. Didn't play at all in the league last year. Didn't play in the All-Ireland either, only played in Leinster. So there's a lot of moving parts to be put back in. Probably a few new lads coming into the side, the likes of Keane Murphy in there, Greg McEnany. A few young lads coming off the bench as well. Killian O'Gara was another one who came on late on. So, Desi was definitely probably just giving a lot of lads game time. He was saying even in his post-match interview, I think 8 players featured, made their debuts for Dublin. So there was a lot of change, and in the end we got the result. And I think that was the main thing, because you'd fully expect performances to improve and go out and beat Limerick next weekend, hopefully.
I suppose, Aaron, watching Kildare times, and maybe kind of, if you're a Kildare supporter, maybe you're kind of tearing your hair for large parts, but maybe the way they're attacking at the end and missed opportunities at the end. But they had so many chances to go on and win that game.
Yeah, they did. And they were costing Dublin a lot of problems. As Michael was saying there, Jack Robinson was really, really impressive. 3 points, but looks like a very skillful footballer. A couple of times he was going around a couple of players and just causing havoc. In the first half, Dublin didn't know what to do with him. To be honest with you, I think they changed man on him then in the second half and sort of started to double up on him, because I think Dublin probably didn't even know too much about him either. And he caught everyone by surprise. But yeah, they definitely did have it was weird. They didn't hit any wides in the first half, Kildare, but they were hitting a lot of balls short. I think that was the main thing. And the final ball wasn't quite right at times, or it was breaking down in the attack and they were being turned over. Probably gave away too many fouls as well. I think they got 5 or 6 yellow cards, although the referee probably was a little bit card happy, I felt at times. But there was definitely an opportunity there. It was a great chance. And in the first half in particular, actually, I felt like they hung on to the ball too much without really doing that. And they 64% possession actually in the first half, which was an unbelievable statistic to see on TG Cahir. I can't remember the last time a team against Dublin had 64% possession, let alone a team from Leinster. Do you know that way? So it was very odd. But yeah, at the same time though, they can look at it and think, we were really, really close from beating Dublin. Apart from that Brian Fenton goal, there was no other goal chances from what I remember. So they have a good bit to be positive for as well, and obviously still have Daniel Flynn to come back in as well. So I think Kildare can definitely take the positives.
absolutely can, and they will try to progress themselves after that game. But at times, it's frustrating watching on because there's definitely 1,000,001 chances to go and win it. And I suppose touching on to Owen Begg, Mal, it was Derry 16 points, Limerick 4 points. I suppose kind of few talking points going into this game of obviously the Glen boys getting game time and starting. Rory definitely means business. No rest for the wicked, I suppose, Mal, but a very, very convincing win in the end.
Yeah, comfortable, to be honest. I think they had 7 wides over the game, and I think it was 8 points to 4 with roughly about 47 minutes gone, 45, 46, 47 minutes gone, 8-4. And if you walked in off the road, you would have thought, God, this is a real battle here. But Derry were by far the better team, complete control, as I said earlier, and they created a few goal chances, didn't take any of them. Ethan Doherty had a goal and was sort of called back for a free in, one of those frustrating ones where you burrow yourself through and you get the goal and it's not given. And they very nearly leaked one at the end. Sloppy defending, but Chrissy McCaig got a leg or a boot just to block it. So a clean sheet and a comfortable win. And I think that's all that they really need. Just to touch on what Aaron had said there about Dublin, even I think Dublin aren't going to get any credit for getting promoted because it'll just be expected, and the expectation will be to win the All-Ireland. So they're going to have to be fresh when it matters. And just just before we go back to Derry, I thought the movement for Brian Fenton's goal was excellent, and no matter how little training they've done, it was so well worked. Rory Gallagher had said that even though they did all their strength and conditioning, they had done no pitch sessions at all until, from a football point of view, until Fermanagh. But that's 11 players have started all 5 games for Derry. Padre Cassidy come on as a sub, means there's 12 have played in all 5 games. So it's very much continuity again for Rory. And the Glen boys playing, I didn't really doubt that they would, to be honest. 12 months ago, when Ballygunner knocked Slaughtneil out of the hurling, it was the same. 6 days later, I think it was McGuigan, Rogers, McCaig played, and Rory actually said to us after the game, he won an All-Ireland with Galls in 2010, and he was out 4 days later playing for Fermanagh. He scored 7 points and had a penalty save against Wexford. So he was joking, he said, that's just the way it is. But I didn't expect anything else. And there's probably, people talk about no break. The other side of it is maybe that's what the damn lads needed. They just needed to get playing. So it depends what way you look at it.
Yeah, no, because I definitely see, and I said this was maybe on the WhatsApp group chat, but I just felt that Conor Glass maybe looked a bit fatigued at times in the All-Ireland final, and we talked with breaks, and I think Shane Walsh, as Aaron was rightly saying there, has gone off to Australia maybe for a few weeks or a few days, just get that bit of a break, getting the buzz back, or just put the feet up. I know David Clifford's maybe gone a bit of a break or holiday, whatever he's having himself. So I just think, to look after stars, Conor Glass is probably one of the best midfielders in the country at the minute. But look, of course, man, as you rightly said, Rory has different ideas.
I can definitely see the argument. I do see the fact that you do need a break, but as I said on the very first podcast I was on with you lads, Derry need to get 8 points before the Dubs come to Celtic Park. So, in a sense, I'm not saying Derry's championship isn't a focus, but in a sense, this time now is really what they're focused on, and that's maybe why they're going down that route. And Ethan Doherty didn't look like a man that was suffering in any way. I know they trained on Wednesday night, but the Glen boys didn't partake. So maybe it's a case of a training. They'll be rest as much as possible, but using the game, because I think what Derry are trying to do, they're trying to get a really settled team as early as possible for as long as possible. And unless somebody gets injured, it's not going to change. And I think that seems to be the reason why that's going down that way. But it definitely had got tongues wagging. A lot of people were messaging me at the game. Well, did they play? Are the boys on? So yeah, it was a talking point. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah, it absolutely was going into it when I seen Conor Glass was listed to start. It definitely would have raised a lot of eyebrows. But there you have it. I suppose, Mal, obviously, maybe from the Limerick end of things, obviously Ray Dempsey cannot be happy with 4 points in 70 minutes of football.
No, and they didn't get very many chances. That goal at the end, John, would have been a consolation.
Yeah.
He did. I was interviewing him after the game, and that's what he said. He says, "Look, this is a level that Limerick haven't been experiencing. They've been very consistent. Like, they've been at Derry's level for quite a while, albeit Derry have risen quicker. But that's what he said. He says, it's the whole athleticism of it and the level. He says, we're just not there. And you have to get to that level. And correct me if I'm wrong, I think they played the Dubs this weekend. Is that right? I think. So it's probably the toughest start you could have asked for. Two teams that are, let's call it, two teams that are in the promotion race, or, the top 2 or 3 teams, and they've got them first.
Yeah, I think Rory Gallagher will absolutely cherish that this weekend as well.
Mm-hmm, he will. They never really look at breaking Derry down, to be honest. As I says to you at the top of the conversation, they're 8-4, sort of flattered Limerick, and it's just a level they're going to have to get to, and that's just as simple as that. And I think that's probably a testament to where Derry have went, and that's basically probably the benchmark that most people are trying to get to. Albeit Dublin and Kildare are different, of course, because they've dropped out of Division 1 and have been there. So, but the rest of the teams are going to try and do what Derry have done, and probably, if you sort of follow down so far, they seem to have trained really hard, really early, trying to get pride back into that jersey. So Derry did that 2 or 3 years ago. So I think that's probably the model that maybe counties are trying to adopt.
Absolutely a good start for Derry, and Rory Gallagher will be absolutely delighted with that, and a stiff test coming this weekend down the tracks, but no doubt they'll be prepared for it. And the other games in Division 2 yesterday, lads, in Páirc Uí Chaoimh, it was Meath 3-14, Cork 19 points. A terrific game of football. I know obviously our Cork contingent of Matthew Hurley and Daniel Goulian were quite disappointed with Cork shown, but judging from League Sunday, they played quite well. Meath just nipped in for the goals near the end, but I think there can be a lot of proud Cork people with some of the performances of Stephen Sherlock. Was absolutely brilliant. So, but I suppose high expectations too, Mr. Prendergast, but a terrific game of football.
Yeah, it was very entertaining. Like, you think 19 points would win, probably would have won you most games, to be honest with you, but yeah, like I was speaking to Matthew earlier actually about that loss, and he certainly wasn't too happy as a Cork man with that defeat. Like, I think it's sort of a strange one with Cork. Like, they always just seem to be 1 or 2 defeats away from a crisis. Like, so much hype around them after the McGrath Cup, and beating Kerry, and obviously beating Clare, I think, in the final or in the semi-finals, and then obviously beating Limerick in the final. But that's just kind of how it's been for Cork in the last sort of 5-6 years. Like, anytime there's been a lot of hype around them and they've been built up quite a bit, they sort of just let you down. They
weren't far away yesterday, though.
They weren't. No, but like, I watched the game, and it was a weird game because they were they were in cruise control, really. Like, they were they were winning in front by 4 or 5 points. As you said, Stephen Sherlock was phenomenal. I mean, he scored 14 points. I thought Brian O'Driscoll had a fairly decent game as well.
He switched to the Gaelic, has he?
Yeah, he switched it over, and he's no hair to go with it as well.
The GA can have that effect on people.
Oh, stop. You probably lose your hair playing for Cork at this rate. Yeah, but no, like, it was weird. And then obviously Jordan Morris gets a goal, and it just sort of fell apart, and Cork just completely imploded for the final 15 minutes. And yeah, like, obviously bringing in Kevin Walsh, who would be mostly known as a more sort of pragmatic coach from his time at Galway. And when you think about it, like, they conceded, I think, 2 goals against Limerick in the McGrath Cup final, and those 3 goals there as well. Like, that's not really Kevin Walsh-esque, to be perfectly honest. So they've a lot to work on, and they play. I think they've got Derry and Dublin. I think they've got Kildare and Dublin in their next 2 games. Play Kildare away next, Cork at home after. So, like, if Cork don't get a couple of points on the board soon, like, they might be looking over their shoulder and possibly even involved in a bit of a relegation scrap. Like, obviously, as we were saying, like, Stephen Sherlock scored 14 points. 11 of them were actually from place balls, which was quite unusual.
That is outrageous, though. That is
mad, isn't it? And
I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe when the commentator was saying yes in League Sunday. Oh my God, off the charts.
Mad, yeah, and that's something that Colm O'Rourke has brought to this Meath side. You could see like that bit of cynicism, those like kind of dragging players back, like stopping attacks, and they were at it for the whole game. But look, it worked, and that's something that Meath have probably been missing the last 5-10 years. Like under Andy McEntee, like the Meath were always a nice team to play. I felt, and maybe that's quite easy to say as a Dublin fan, but I just felt like they were a team you could beat. Like once you're up for it and you're on it, and you brought that bit of physicality, you could beat them. Whereas now, they look like they have a bit more bite and a bit more steel to them. And, like they were getting involved in challenges and they weren't shying away from 50-50 balls. And obviously Shane Walsh, Meath's own version of Shane Walsh, like he was very good, 1-7 in total. And he looks like a very, very good player. So, yeah, like a lot to be positive from a Meath perspective. But, yeah, for Cork, like obviously Stephen Sherlock got 14 points. None of their other forwards scored. So, like there's just like Brian Hurley was fairly quiet. So yeah, like they've a lot to work on, I think, now going into those next two games, because if they do get beat by Kildare and Dublin, they might be in a bit of trouble, because still have to play Derry as well. So
yeah, I think survival could be key for that particular situation. What do you think, Mal, yourself? Obviously a very high scoring game. Mr. Sherlock shoot the lights out and still wasn't enough.
I only saw the highlights on League Sunday, to be honest, and the scoreline. And funny, interesting enough, we were actually interviewing Andy McEntee up in Corrigan just as the results was coming in, and he was as happy as Larry when he heard that Meath had won. But is it maybe a trend with new managers that if you're a new manager and you bring a bit of athleticism and a bit of physicality and organisation, if you bring those three things to the table, do you buy the fans over very early? Because that's the one thing a new manager needs. He needs to bring every single person in the county with them. And I was at the McKenna Cup final and down. We were getting stuck into Derry and playing some great football as well. And you're thinking to yourself, Conor already had to do this. So maybe Rourke's the same in Meath, where him and the selector sat down and says, right, whatever happens, let's get the people of Meath wanting to come and watch us. And here, to beat Cork in your first game, that's some tonic for them going into to the rest of the campaign. And I know they come to Owen Begg in week 3, so I'm sure Meath people are buzzing. And I think, was it League Sunday last night, they did that very vigorous trawling of the intermediate and junior championships to try and find players. I always remember Sean Boylan saying that he found Darren Fay playing midfield for Trim in a junior game and thought, here, you'll do full back for me. So it's great to see that. And I think putting your Derry hat or your own county hat at the side, I think people are crying out for more teams to be competing and bringing more excitement. Look what Armagh did for Ulster last year. So, if Meath can come in and get a cut at the Kildares and the Dublins, it's brilliant. It's brilliant for the game.
It absolutely is, man. It absolutely is. And I suppose moving on to the other action that took place in Division 2 yesterday in Coots Park, Ennis, it was Clare 13 points, Louth 1-9, a 1-point win for Colm Collins' men. Michael, obviously, Mickey Hart will be quite disappointed to lose away from home, but a 1-point defeat is quite disappointing.
Yeah, I was talking to Dan Bannon this morning on his podcast, and anybody knows Dan, he's a Louth fanatic. And he was absolutely raging with the way it went yesterday. I think it basically toed and froed, and they seemed to play. I'm not sure what the figures are. I'll not quote them, but they seemed to play more stoppage time than they felt. And as soon as Clare got the winner, the referee blew it up. That's all I sort of got off him. And they were very disappointed because they could have got something out of it. And that probably leaves them in a tricky situation. As we're both chatting about looking over your shoulder once you lose a couple of games. So that's the game where Louth will feel they should have got something out of. And a bit like you said about Kildare, they'll be looking today and thinking, we should have beat the Dubs. So, and then Louth are now hosting Derry this weekend. But haven't saw any of that game to know, other than the fact that it seemed to be a very dramatic and controversial finish. But maybe maybe the TG Car show and watch it later on will tell me a wee bit more.
Yeah, Absolutely, lads, absolutely. I suppose moving on to Division 1, lads, on Saturday night in Hastings, McHale Park. It was Mayo 1-11, Galway 2-8. What a game of football, lads. It's January. You'd swear it was June, July, the way the intensity of this game was played. Ryan O'Donoghue just coming up trumps at the very end with the equalising point. Mayo never say die attitude. Killian O'Connor getting a point at the very last as well. Come with a free. It ebbed and flowed. It had everything. It had stuff along the sideline. Aaron Prendergast, Mayo were back.
says you. Yeah, no, look, like as you said it spot on there. Like I think if you had to watch this game in I think the Connacht finals in May now or whenever it is, but like I think if you didn't know anything, you'd say that probably was the Connacht final, because like the intensity that the game was played at, like it was ferocious. Like both sides are running at it. It was kind of a scrappy game. Like it was, like there was a lot of, you could see at the same time, again, would have been the opening day of the league. Like there was a few unforced errors, few misplaced passes, a lot of turnovers. It was really scrappy in around midfield, but yeah, like so much ferociousness brought to the table. I mean, James Carr, like I feel like this guy only scores screamers. Like, I mean, I remember he scored an absolute cracker against Galway a couple of years ago. It's like Galway fans are probably sick of the sight of him at this stage. Yeah, like, and this was another absolute belter. Like, really, really good goal. And even Sean Kelly's goal for Galway, like that was, there was only one place he could put that ball with one of the Mayo defenders on the line, and puts it in off the post and trickles in. So no, it was a really, really good game. And I think, after what, like, to be honest, when I was watching the Dublin Kildare game, it was kind of a bit depressing. Like, it was a bit boring. And, to watch the Mayo Galway game after it, like, you were on, even though, like, I'm not a supporter of either side, like, you were kind of on the edge of your seat. And yeah, when Ryan O'Donoghue gets that chance, like, that's kind of classic Mayo. Like, how many times have we seen that down the years where they look beaten and then out of nothing, they just pull it out of the bag. Like, and even bringing Killian O'Connor, Aidan O'Shea, and Kevin McLaughlin off the bench, like that's, like, you'd imagine when O'Connor gets fit, he'll probably start, but bringing those experienced heads off the bench, that might be crucial for Mayo further down the line.
100%. It was a great game, and I think even like the likes of the experience coming on with Killian O'Connor, definitely a man that needs no introduction. Aidan O'Shea maybe even used as a distraction. Maybe that might be what Kevin McStay goes forward with this year. But what a game, Mr. Prendergast. And obviously it goes to show Galway are very, very useful even without the service of Liam Silk, Shane Walsh away at the minute. So yeah, Galway will definitely be thereabouts this year.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, and then like it's probably a strange one for Galway. Like I can't remember too many times where they come away from McHale Park with a draw and feel like they're disappointed. It probably shows actually how far they've come in the last 12 months. That, and as a newly promoted side, you can go away to Mayo, get a draw, and come away feeling disappointed, but and be without, as you said, Liam Silk, Shane Walsh, Ian Burke as well. Peter Cook coming off the bench late on. Once the league goes on, you'd imagine he'll probably start getting more involved in this side. So yeah, like some very good performers in there as well, like Damien Comer again, like 3 points from him, and again, like really, really good performance. Matthew Tierney's really sort of solidified himself now as a regular starter in this side, and even Killian McDade and Paul Conroy with 2 lovely points in the game as well. So yeah, like a lot to be positive for from a Galway perspective. Like, they'll be disappointed that it's a draw, but in the wide context of things, like the result probably isn't going to have too much of a significance in their season, unless they miss out on a league final or something of that nature. But some good performers, and with Shane Walsh still to come back in, there's a good bit to be positive for if you're a Galway fan.
I suppose, man, what did you make of Saturday night? Like, there was so much in it, and probably like it felt like there was so much stake, even though it was like a league game. And obviously the likes of the experience of Aidan O'Shea kind of coming on, maybe your thoughts on that going forward. But overall, a great game of football and some mighty goals scored too.
Brilliant. Here, lads, what will Mayo be like if they won the Ireland? Because they are absolutely.
It's the $1 million question. I see Mr. Prendergast follows the Twitter page.
We would have to do
leaving the country.
Yeah, but if they won the Ireland, we'll have to do the Monday night show from Castlebar. It's amazing.
I know, crazy, off the charts, man. Yeah.
Derry played them in a qualifier game in 2017. It was Damien Barton's last ever game as Derry manager, and Derry should have beat them. And it went to extra time, and Conor Loftus scored a goal to bring it to extra time. And I remember going down onto the pitch afterwards to interview, players and things, and it was absolutely packed. There was a pitch invasion, like it was not Ireland final.
Yeah.
And like it eats into the fact that, like you touched on the way they play. It's nearly like organised chaos.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
the whole time.
But if you take that away, and try and put a straitjacket on them, or a set of stabilisers, are you taking it away? Maybe they're going to have to spend the whole year. Like Kevin McStay was absolutely buzzing in his interview.
Mm.
Maybe that's what they should do, and obviously have some sort of a game plan where there's certain things that have to be kept steady, so you don't leak, shaky goals. They could give away a messy goal, the high ball. But to be fair, I think it was Tierney flicked the ball in. I think it was him. But maybe if they can some sort of a play to keep a clean sheet. If they could go through the year of keeping clean sheets and just absolutely go for it the other way, why not? If they are going to use Aidan O'Shea as an impact sub or Killian O'Connor or whatever, as you say, like, what a point from Ryan O'Donoghue. Mm-hmm. Brilliant stuff. But is there a phobia about Croke Park? Like it's just wide city when they go to Croke Park and it's miss. But it was, Aaron, you nailed it. Like after watching Kildare in Dublin, where it was an empty stadium and it was a cagey game, and like McHale Park was just brilliant. And there's actually a great camera shot RT had of above the ground. Just like something you saw on a Champions League Tuesday, where you see the floodlights and. You can
the overhead camera, that was brilliant.
Yeah, but you can imagine what that does for people in Mayo. Like park the game and park what Mayo might do this year. Is it any wonder it's a football fanatical county? Mm-hmm. Like people on the outside are thinking, "Hey, I want a bit of that. When's the next game?" Mm-hmm. I actually thought it was in Croke Park the day they were going to win it, 2017. I remember thinking, shit, I'm going to be in Croke Park the day they won it. But they didn't. But I was thinking the other evening when I was watching that and hearing you guys talking about it there, like, what would it be like if they won it? I think everybody will go to the Castle Bar for a week.
I think Mr. Prendergast would go to Namibia or South Africa. I think if that was to transpire. What do you think?
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I think I would maybe have to go on a holiday or something. But at the same time, it would be nice for them to get their moment. Like, I mean, they've waited for it long enough, to be honest. Probably realistically will happen. Someday you'd have to imagine. But yeah, like as Michael was saying there, like it was just absolutely mad. Like, crazy game and so much drama all over, and even seeing the pitch invasion at full time as well. Like, and to be honest, that was another thing actually. Like across the whole country, with so many packed attendances and so many packed stadiums. Like even Croke Park at 17,000, which like obviously is considerably small for Croke Park, but it's a lot more than what it would usually be for Dublin's league games. So, great to see like supporters coming out, and like I think Monaghan's game versus Armagh was completely sold out as well. So like it's great to see a lot of supporters going to games and everything else.
Well, I didn't notice that when I was watching the coverage of that game, Aaron, because I thought to myself for a split second, is the camera actually in the Cusick? But it wasn't, it was in the Hogan. So what do you put that attendance down to? Because I was quite surprised that what do you put that down to? Is there
I think I honestly think it's people just mad to get out of the house and get back to games. And like, I think the COVID, we were locked away for the 2 years and you couldn't go to games, you couldn't do this, you couldn't go out and meet your friends. Everyone has different opinions, but I honestly think it's people just mad to go for a couple of points after the game, meet their friends and get out of the house, I think.
Yeah, like because I think at the start of the league last year, like I think we just come out of like the restrictions were just lifted, so maybe there was, I think most people were over it, but maybe there was still some uncertainty. I don't really know, like, but yeah, no, it's great to see supporters being back, and whether it's maybe because there's been a long break since the summer, like it's been a longer than usual, maybe
July.
Normally it'd be September to February, September to end of January, September to February, whereas now it's been July. And maybe as well because a lot more teams are doing better. Like, Armagh are doing well. Roscommon are doing well. Like there's, teams are gradually improving and getting better. It's become a lot more competitive championship and league in the last few years. Now that Dublin probably aren't as dominant, so maybe that has something to do with it as well. I'm not sure.
Yeah. I think a remark from that Dublin game is, and I kept saying it during the Kildare Dublin game Saturday night, that it's mad. 5-6 years ago, this could be a 10 to 15 point drop, and it's mad how much they've come back to the pack, lads.
Yeah, very much so. But like I still think you must always remember like that Dublin team that was dominating. Like I know a lot of other counties weren't at the level, but like that was one of the best teams that there's ever been. Like even Stephen Cluxton alone, like the impact that man had on the game of football was just scary. I remember being in the upper Davin one day watching them in action and thinking, surely this our team's going to catch on to his kick out. But they didn't. It was absolutely brilliant to watch. So you boys like him, Derry McConnelly and his pump, it was just great to be living through that era when there was such a good team. Thankfully, it has ended and has given the rest of us a bit of a chance. But no, I think you just have to give them credit for what they have. But I think it is starting to even out a wee bit. Maybe Armagh's story last year of Croke Park had been a sea of orange, and maybe it's a summary of where it has gone, because they weren't even Ulster champions yet when they got to Croke Park. It was a pure carnival. And I know I was at a couple of games in Clonus last year, even ones Derry weren't playing in. The street was packed. That's what people want to see. And as you say, people want to, if there's a bit of crack, going with a few pints and have a weekend out in the middle of it all, for a fan. So I think that's all part of it. I loved it whenever I was going myself, so I'm sure everybody else is the same.
No, us boys don't drink. We don't touch alcohol, so don't worry about that. There's a strict drinking ban on the podcast at the minute. I know Sharon was out the weekend, weren't you?
Yeah, I was out Saturday night celebrating the Dublin victory.
1 point, big man. How times have changed. How times have changed.
Yeah. No, I was just out for a friend's birthday, all the rest. But yeah, no, it was funny speaking to other Dublin fans and everything that were at the game. Like one of my mates was at the game, and yeah, like he was saying, like it was a weird atmosphere at the game. Like it was kind of very just like it wasn't much of an atmosphere, but I suppose as you are saying there, like great to see supporters back, and even maybe as well like Derry winning an Ulster title, and Cavan when they won an Ulster title, Tyrone winning the All Ireland the way they did. Like maybe it's just giving supporters belief that like they can win major titles and they can compete with the big teams, and supporters want to be there, and they probably see the Derry supporters running on the pitch at full time when they win the Ulster title and thinking that could be us, so it's the hope more than anything else, I think. And yeah, great to see supporters fully attending games and everything else.
To be honest, when Tyrone won the All Ireland, I remember thinking to myself, if Derry got their act together, they're not a million miles away from Tyrone. I remember thinking that day.
Yeah.
My God, Derry could be an All Ireland final. It's not beyond any realms of belief or anything. So I think you're right. And look at Armagh last year. I know I've mentioned it 2 or 3 times in this pod alone, but it's just the sheer excitement. Like there's 4,500 people at the game of Antrim, like in the McKenna Cup. Like that's gas.
I think it was the break. I think because we went last July was last when the county was back on. So I think, as Aaron rightly said, I think it's the break that got everybody, I'd say.
Yeah.
So 100%, lads. And we will. The clock is running on us, so we'll move on to the other game in Division 1 on Saturday night in St Mary's Park, Castleblaney. It was Armagh 114, Monaghan 112, a 2-point win for Armagh. Obviously, Armagh will be definitely happy with that, but I suppose large parts of the game, either team could have went on and won it. I thought it was going to be one of the tightest games of the weekend. It turned out like that. Rory Beggan will not be looking back at this game with too much fondness, but look, Armagh went up the road with the 2 points and a 2-point victory.
Great victory for them. And does that game alone just tell you how the position the goalkeeper is? Like Rory Beggan, probably one of the best kickers to ever play the game in terms of variation. I remember his kickouts. I watched him playing against Slampy in an Ulster Club game, and high up in the stand in Clonus. And he was putting them everywhere. It was brilliant. But then you take a chance, you get caught out back in the net. And then at the other end of the pitch, Ethan Rafferty going forward to kick that point from play. Welcome to our goalkeeper debate again. You want to throw that out again, but that just is it for a nutshell. And you just kept thinking Monaghan was going to come back. And then I suppose maybe Stephen Campbell got the game by the throat and just got them across the line. That's that statement that they all use when we interview people across the line, but they literally did. And maybe a wee bit like Kildare, maybe Monaghan and Vinnie Corey will be thinking, shit, we should have got something out of that game.
Yeah.
That's a point we could have been, that point would have been useful in Calculator Sunday when we're struggling.
Is Conor McManus fit, Mal?
Don't know. I'm unsure. I was actually waiting on to come on. You'd imagine he's not.
Yeah.
You would imagine he's not. Like if you were Vinnie Corey and the game was as tight as that, you surely would have brought him on. That would be a concern. I didn't actually think to check that out, but that would suggest not. Or are they keeping him for the last 4 or 5 games, maybe whenever he's totally right? But surely
that would have been a good game to play him in. I don't know. Like Monaghan will lead all the points he can get.
They will, and I suppose in the last, you always use the example of the last 10 minutes of the game when you've maybe got a tired corner back and Conor McManus, one of the greatest forwards to play the game, popping up in the right place to kick a point. Like they had a couple of wayward enough shots later on, Monaghan, that they'll probably be cringing with those, but McManus just needs an inch. He could pull one out of the bag. So
yeah. And
the other thing is, he did say in an interview that he was back. Was it maybe for at least for one more year? I'm not sure, but there was something that he was back this year, and you can imagine, he's not going to come back to sit on the bench. So maybe he's not. But no, a great game once again, and a packed attendance, and Stephen Campbell was probably the difference, really. But
Michael Murphy said that, didn't he?
Yeah. But it was great to watch Ethan Rafferty come up and doing the 1-2s, and I hear supporters saying to me all the time about Ordan Lynch, oh, that man needs to get back in goals. But
yeah,
sure, the fly goalkeepers, it's something interesting and something exciting to talk about. If you get the right man, and maybe Ethan Rafferty's performance the other night just vindicates exactly what Armagh are trying to do.
Yeah, we've seen so much of it last year as well. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see, does it keep developing? But Armagh will be absolutely delighted with that 2-point win, 2 points on the board as well. So Kieran McGeeney will be delighted with that start. I suppose we can touch on to this weekend's action, lads. Well, basically every game bar 2 games is all on Sunday this weekend, lads. So Sunday is going to be absolutely action packed, and we are absolutely buzzing for it. I suppose we can briefly, I suppose in 1 word or 2 words, give answers or predictions to these lads. In the Allianz National Football League Division 1 Round 2, we've Kerry against Monaghan in Fitzgerald Stadium, 1/2 on TG Cahir. Mr. Prendergast, what are we thinking?
Yeah, I suppose obviously with Kerry getting beat by Donegal, I have to give that a mention. It's not often us Dublin fans get to see Kerry get beat, so we'll definitely have to give it a mention. But no, look, I think they should bounce back and get the victory here. Like, I think it'd be interesting if Kerry were to potentially lose this. All of a sudden, losing to Donegal and Monaghan would still come very tough games to play. All of a sudden, they could find themselves maybe in a bit of a scrap to stay up. But yeah, they should have enough to bounce back, like in their own backyard. I don't know, will they bring Clifford back for this one, or Sean O'Shea? Probably not. But they could maybe make a bit of an impact, maybe coming off the bench. Maybe Sean O'Shea, but I'm not entirely sure. But I think they should still have enough to come through.
Absolutely. And then we can move on to Pearse Stadium at 2 p.m. It's Galway against Roscommon. Mal?
It's hard to look past Galway for me. Roscommon played well last week, but I just think Galway got the upper hand on them last year, I suppose, whenever it mattered, and I think they'll do the same this week.
Yeah, absolutely. And then big game this weekend, lads, in O'Neill's Healy Park, 2 p.m. Tyrone v Donegal. Need to say more, Mr. Prendergast?
Yeah, I think Donegal are going to beat them, to be honest. I think Tyrone they just seem to be a bit all over the place at the moment. They started the McKenna Cup quite well, but since the final, there just doesn't seem. I don't really know what's going on there, to be honest. Like, it's a strange one because All-Ireland champions 2 years ago under the current management. A lot of people saying maybe there's issues with management and everything else, but these were the lads that delivered an All-Ireland 2 years ago. So it's very strange to see sort of what's going on there. But yeah, like I suppose with Donegal, with obviously beating Kerry and some of the new lads coming in like Hale and McColgan, who looked very good, and Paddy McBrearty obviously scoring that point. So yeah, I fancy Donegal. I think it's in Tyrone, but I fancy Donegal to turn them over, to be honest.
It is in Tyrone, and we will wait and see how it goes. And then it's Armagh v Mayo in the Athletic Grounds, 3:30, TG Car, live on TG Car, and of course the Kerry Mayo Monaghan games on TG Car as well. But Mal, that is a mouth-watering game this Sunday in the Athletic Grounds.
I'd love to go to it, but I'm not. I'm going to watch Derry, but that sounds deadly. That's the two teams we've been talking about all night. Mayo for me, but the big problem will be getting a ticket to get into that game.
Yeah, you have the press pass, big man. Don't worry.
That game was still out Croke Park, lads.
Which game now? The Armagh Mayo.
Yeah.
Yeah, like that's the two
shout,
crazy. Yeah, that's the two mad
I'm not saying the shit. I'm just saying two counties that are completely buzzing about football.
Yeah.
But no, Mayo for me for a short prediction.
They just need to get their hands on a trophy soon, lads, and then the supporters can start believing a bit more, I suppose. And then moving on to Division 2, lads. Meath against Clare, Park Tulton, 2 p.m. Sunday. Mr. Aaron Prendergast.
Yeah, I mean, after beating Cork, I mean, Meath are bound to be buzzing. I'd say there'd be a great carnival atmosphere in Navan, especially with Colm O'Rourke, would have been his first game in charge of Meath in Navan, or his first league game in charge. I suppose, as Mal and yourself were saying there, like Clare barely got out of jail against Louth. Like, they were 3 points down going into injury time and then scored 4 points, unanswered. So yeah, this is a tough one, to be honest. Like, I don't know, like Clare beat Meath last year. Like, I'm going to go for a draw, I think. I think it's a safe bet.
Ooh, sit on that fence, Mr. Prendergast. And then Kildare against Cork, Newbridge, 2 p.m. Mal.
I'm interested to see is there money to be made in that draw. We'll talk next week. Kildare.
Kildare, interesting.
Kildare. I like
in Newbridge.
I like what I saw last week. And I was watching it with one eye on, Derry playing in a few weeks' time, but I think Kildare will do the business.
Fantastic stuff. Mr. Prendergast, Louth against Derry in RD at 2 p.m.
Yeah, I think I'd have to go for Derry there.
Keep that man happy.
That's it. I think if I went against it now, I'd probably be kicked off. But no, like I think in reality, I think like Derry probably look like the best team in the country at this moment in time. Like in terms of where they're at, like in terms of how they've played, obviously in the McKenna Cup and how they looked on the opening day of the league. Not saying they are the best team in the country now, but in terms of how they're looking at this moment in time. So yeah, I'd expect Derry to comfortably see off Louth by 5 or 6, I'd say.
And Mal has to send the brown envelope to what address?
Here, I'll put it in the chat here, will
I? Brilliant stuff. We'll keep whacking on. That's Limerick against Dublin, TUS Gaelic Grounds, 3 p.m. Mr. McMullen.
Dublin. It's just you just can't see anything else. As I said earlier in the chat, it's just really unfortunate what Limerick have met in the first 2 games. 2 teams that have real chances of being promoted together. So no, Dublin for me.
Brilliant stuff. And then moving on to Division 3, round 2. Mr. Prendergast, behave for this one. Cavan against Tipperary, Kingston Breffni Park, 2 p.m.
Ooh, yeah. I mean, hard to know. I mean, you probably know more about this one than me, to be honest. I mean, after like watch the highlights on Allianz League Sunday for Cavan against Westmeath. Great win. Obviously beating them in their own backyard, getting revenge on the Tailteann Cup and everything else. And yourselves and Tipperary, like, you've shared a lot through the years, obviously winning provincial titles on the same day, getting relegated down to Division 4 on the same day. I mean, do you know what I mean? You've shared a lot of memories together. But I think at the same time, I'd probably have to go for Cavan here now.
Take that, my man. Take that and run. I'll take that and run. Good man. Good man. Thanks for the abuse as well. You're half Westmeath, so great to get the win over yesterday too. Offaly against Fermanagh in Glennisk, O'Connor Park, 2 p.m. Mr. McMullen.
Tough enough one to call there. I saw Offaly yesterday, but to be honest, if Antrim had took a shooting bit with them, they could have got something out of it. I'm going for Fermanagh.
Away from home?
It's probably a tough call.
I think Offaly by a.
I'm not changing my mind. Can't change your mind, so no, I'll go for Fermanagh.
Oh God! But don't put that much pressure on you, Mal. Don't worry. Maybe Aaron might. Longford against Westmeath, Glennon Brothers, Pierce Park, 2 p.m. Mr. Prendergast. First question: are you going to go to the game? Number 2, who's going to win?
Number 1 now. I think leaving Dublin to go up to Longford, is exciting as it sounds. I think I might have to pass on this occasion. But in terms of who's going to win, I mean, both had disappointing results in the opening week. I mean, Longford's defeat of Fermanagh was definitely one that surprised a lot of people. Maybe not necessarily the defeat, but the manner of the defeat, losing to 7 points. And I think for Westmeath, although they already have a Sam Maguire place wrapped up, I think they'll want to be up there fighting for promotion. They have a good enough side to get into Division 2. So I think if they have any aspirations of getting promoted, I think they've got to turn Longford over. So go Westmeath by 3 or 4.
Yeah, definitely the signs are pointing that direction. And we will move on to Division 4 action on Sunday, lads. It's London against Leitrim in McGovern Park, 1 p.m. Mr. McMullen.
Leitrim for me, a big result they had last weekend, and I remember seeing them playing Derry a couple of years ago, Division 4, and then Division 3 opener. It was a draw, very, very difficult team to beat that day. Derry have moved on, and I expect Leitrim to move on in the same direction. I can see Leitrim getting promoted.
Andy Moore would be absolutely delighted with that. And then we'll move on to Wicklow against Sligo in Aughrim at 2 p.m. Mr. Prendergast, can Oisin McConnell get his first win as a Wicklow manager in the National Football League?
Yeah, it's a big game, especially after Sligo losing to Laois. I think a lot of people had Sligo as one of the picks for promotion. I was listening to yourselves when you were doing your predictions, and I think Sligo was the team everyone pretty much mentioned, and I probably would have gave them a shout as well. So all of a sudden 2 defeats, and it puts them out of the running in some ways, doesn't it? They're sort of chasing the likes of Leitrim and Wicklow and whatnot. But
that was a 2-hour-long podcast last week. Did you watch that?
I got through a good bit of it, but I think I was listening to it in work. I think by the time we got an hour in, I think work was done. So never quite got back around to it, but maybe we'll finish it off at some point.
Oh lordy, 100%. That's commitment for you. That is commitment to the cause. And then what do we have? We have Laois v Wexford in Laois Higher O'Moore Park at 2 p.m. Mr. McMullen.
Laois are so unpredictable, but I'm going to go for them to win at home. Do you say it's at home?
Yes.
Yeah. They're a wee bit like they've been in so many divisions and been up and down. You chatted about Cavan. Derry was the same, up and down, but Laois for me.
Great stuff. And then Saturday's action, lads, in Division 3. Round 2, you've Down against Antrim, Park Esler, 6 p.m. and Mr. Prendergast.
Yeah, I suppose a lot of positivity around Down football all of a sudden with Conor Laverty and Jim McGuinness, who, a lot of people, felt he was back when Stephen Poacher was putting up a tweet there, but obviously it's been confirmed now that it was just a brief training session.
Stevie wouldn't tell lies, would he?
Yeah, I don't know what was going on there. That was interesting. I don't know if, I suppose Mal probably knows more about that than us, but I don't know if Laverty's trying to keep it under wraps or whether it was all just.
I think he's taking a few training sessions for them, is he? I think, isn't he?
Yeah, I think so, because I know Conor Laverty was very close to Mickey Moran as well, and you wouldn't rule out him bringing in other people, and maybe that's exactly what Down need, just a wee bit of freshness here and there, but definitely a lot of excitement about Down. And I keep drumming at home, new manager, do whatever it takes to get the crowd on your side, and he certainly has got Down people excited again, and I think that's a very, very important thing he's done, is getting them all inside.
down or answer from Mr. Prendergast?
Yeah, down. I think comfortably enough.
Yeah, I think so. And then the last game in Division 4, round 2, Mr. Mullen, Waterford against Carlow in Setu Arena, Carricknor at 5 p.m. on Saturday.
I think you have to go for Carlow. On the strength of just they racked up another 210. I think it was 210 they got last weekend, and I think they'll come through that. I just can't believe you didn't get Johnny Murdo on to predict that the Cross McLean battle in Division 4. We should get him to record a wee prediction and stick it up on Twitter. I think that's must that.
Getting Johnny to do anything these days, he's a newly married man, so getting him even for a phone call these days is a bit of a struggle. And to wrap up, lads, Mr. Prendergast, your player to watch this weekend and bet of the weekend.
Ooh, yeah, player to watch. I mean, a lot of players to watch. Hard to know, like to pick one out in particular. I mean, like I think Jack Robinson was a player who really caught the eye against the Dubs. It'd be interesting to see what he can do against Cork. So I'd probably maybe go with him as one of the players to watch. From a Kildare perspective, I can't really think of too many like off the top of my head that might maybe make a breakthrough. One player I'd love to see play is Rory Canavan for Tyrone. Like I'd love to see him sort of come into the team. But he hasn't been involved with the squad or the panel this year. Like I think he might be with the under-20s. But yeah, I'd probably go with Jack Robinson for Kildare. And then in terms of bet of the week, I think, did you say Laois are playing London? Yeah, I'd go for London to win that, because Laois, every time they build you up, they let you down. And I think London are probably a lot better than people think. So I'd go for London to beat Laois.
Great stuff, Mal.
Suppose we'll have to go for the bet of the week for Fermanagh to win in Tullamore.
Oh,
Brian Gavin. I was talking to Brian Gavin yesterday. He won't be happy with me. So I don't know how that's going. And player of the weekend. That's a hard one. I didn't realise that was coming, but I will be looking to see how Robinson does, because you want to see somebody come in back-to-back performances. And I'd say to that, let me see. I should have caught me cold there, because you're sort of looking at something that's not going to happen. Darren McVitie again.
Hello, boy, man. Love it.
I was going to say it in the middle of the Cavan stuff when I was watching the League Sunday last night. He kicked 2 points from centre back.
Class.
As a Cavan man, how big of an addition is he? Because if he can do that week on, week out, that's some boost.
Oh man, yeah, unbelievable. We're delighted to have him back, to be honest with you. He's he obviously, of course, he missed out in the Ulster win in 2020, but he's a remarkable player. He could basically play anywhere, like half-back, midfield, half-forward, full forward. He'd be a really good addition in the full forward line. Like, he can move. He's so quick off the mark. He can go on inside, win ball. He done that against Tyrone. Like, he was playing half-back against Tyrone, then he went in full forward, won his own ball. He is just an unbelievable addition. But like I did kind of say in another podcast I done last week, that we kind of looked a bit, I suppose, toothless kind of without Darren McVitie in the last couple of games. So unbelievable. He's a fantastic footballer and probably man of the match in every single game he's played for Cavan since coming back. So it speaks for itself. Yeah, it's a
pity he missed that year. It's a real pity.
Yeah, big time. Traveling in Australia.
Did he miss a club championship at the same already?
Yes, club championship in 2020.
That's not easy, missing that whenever. It just shows you luck.
Chance you take.
You need a lot of luck in life, and he didn't have football and luck at that stage.
Yeah. No, remarkable talent. I think everyone, the whole country is probably looking forward to hopefully seeing him on the TV very, very soon. I will give my shouts this weekend, lads. I will go with an absolute dark horse. If Conor McManus can come alive, or if he's about this weekend, I think maybe the player to watch this weekend if he's injury free and ready to go. And I might go for a draw maybe in the Offaly and Fermanagh game, and we will leave it at that. Lads, thanks a million for joining me this week. And of course, this podcast is brought to you by orgorich.com. 2 days left of January, 20% off on the website, so get your hands on the gear. Mr. Prendergast from GFN TV, thank you very much. Gaelic Life journalist Michael Mullen, thank you very, very much. Cheers, lads.
All the best, lads.
Brilliant. Sound, lads. Sound.